It was just a sound, barely audible over the traffic, over the city noise, over the rush of people heading to work on a cold Tuesday morning. But it stopped him, made him pause mid-step, coffee in hand, already 10 minutes late. It was a cry. Small, desperate, broken. The kind of sound that cuts through everything else and goes straight to your heart. He turned around, scanning the sidewalk. And that's when he saw it. A tiny kitten, no bigger than his hand, sitting next to something on the ground. At first, he couldn't quite process what he was seeing. The kitten kept pushing its small head against a larger cat lying motionless on the cold pavement. Push, wait, push again. Like it was trying to wake her up. Like it believed that if it just tried hard enough, she would open her eyes and everything would be okay. But she wasn't going to wake up. Anyone could see that. Anyone except the kitten, who refused to accept what was right in front of him. He let out another cry, this one even more heartbreaking than the last. It wasn't just a meow. It was a plea. It was confusion. It was the sound of a baby who didn't understand why his mom wouldn't respond anymore. The man stood there, frozen. He had a meeting. His boss was already annoyed with him. He had deadlines, responsibilities, a life that didn't have room for complications. But those eyes, when the kitten looked up at him, those huge, tear-filled eyes locked onto his, and something inside him just cracked. This wasn't just a stray cat. This was a child who had just lost everything and didn't know what to do. He took a step closer. The kitten backed away immediately, letting out a sharp hiss. Defensive. Protecting the only family he had left, even though she was already gone. The man knelt down slowly, feeling the cold concrete through his pants. He could see now that the mother cat had been there for a while. Her body was stiff. She'd probably been hit by a car during the night. And this baby had stayed by her side through it all, waiting for a miracle that would never come. What do you do in a moment like that? Do you call someone? Do you walk away and let nature take its course? Do you convince yourself that it's not your problem, that someone else will handle it? The man reached out his hand, slowly, carefully. The kitten watched him with those enormous eyes, trembling so hard his whole tiny body shook. Fear and hope mixed together in a way that was almost unbearable to witness. And then something shifted. Maybe the kitten was too tired to keep fighting. Maybe he sensed something in this stranger that felt safe. Or maybe he just had nothing left to lose. He took one small step forward, then another. And when the man's fingers finally touched his wet, cold fur, the kitten didn't run. He just collapsed into that hand and cried. Really cried. The kind of crying that comes from deep inside, from a place of pure grief and exhaustion. The man scooped him up, tucking the tiny creature inside his jacket to keep him warm. The kitten's cries turned into soft, broken whimpers. He could feel the little heartbeat racing against his chest, so fast it seemed impossible. Before leaving, the man did something he didn't have to do. He gently moved the mother cat off the road, laying her in the grass under a tree. He took off his scarf and covered her. It was a small gesture, maybe meaningless, but it felt important, like acknowledging that she had mattered, that her life had meant something. The walk home was the longest of his life. Every step, he felt that tiny body trembling against him. Every few seconds, the kitten would let out a small cry, like he was asking where they were going, where his mom was, why everything had changed so suddenly. The man whispered to him nonsense words that meant nothing except, "You're safe now," and "I've got you," and "Everything's going to be okay," even though he had no idea if that was true. Inside his apartment, the man set the kitten down on a soft towel. And for the first time, he really looked at him. God, he was small. His eyes were too big for his face, still that baby blue that hadn't changed yet. His fur was matted, dirty, soaked from the rain that had fallen overnight. He was shaking so hard it looked like he might fall apart. And he wouldn't stop crying, these heartbreaking little sounds that made the man's chest hurt. First thing, get him warm. The man used a hairdryer on the lowest, coolest setting, gently drying the kitten's fur while supporting his small body. The kitten flinched at first, scared of the noise, but gradually relaxed into the warmth. Underneath all that dirt and water, his fur was gray, a soft silver color that caught the light. Beautiful. Underneath all that fear and trauma, There was a beautiful little life fighting to survive. Next came food. The man had no idea what to feed a kitten this small. He searched online frantically, finding conflicting advice and warnings. Finally, he heated up some milk, testing the temperature on his wrist like you would for a baby. The kitten sniffed it cautiously, then began to lap it up with desperate urgency. He was starving, had probably been without proper food for days, living on whatever scraps his mother could find. And now she couldn't find anything anymore. That first night was brutal. The kitten cried nonstop. Not hungry cries or scared cries, but the kind of crying that comes from loss. He wandered around the small apartment, searching for something that wasn't there, calling out for someone who would never answer. The man tried everything. Held him, talked to him, wrapped him in warm blankets. Nothing worked. Around 3 in the morning, exhausted and heartbroken, he laid down on the couch with the kitten on his chest. And finally, feeling that heartbeat beneath him, the kitten quieted down. Not peaceful, not happy, but at least not alone. Morning came too fast. The man called in sick to work, something he never did. But how could he leave? This tiny creature depended on him completely now. He had no one else. So the man spent the day researching, learning everything he could about caring for orphan kittens. The articles were overwhelming. So many things could go wrong. So many ways he could mess this up. But he had to try. The vet visit happened that afternoon. The doctor was kind but honest. The kitten was about 4 weeks old, severely underweight, covered in fleas, showing signs of dehydration. But his heart was strong. His lungs were clear. With proper care, he could make it. Not would. The man left with bags of supplies, special kitten formula, medicine for the fleas, instructions that felt impossibly complicated, and a small, fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, he hadn't found this kitten too late. The following days became a routine that took over his entire life. Wake up every 3 hours to feed the kitten. Clean him gently with a warm cloth. Monitor his temperature. Watch for signs of illness. The man's friends thought he was crazy. His mom said he'd taken on too much. His coworker asked why he didn't just take it to a shelter. But every time he looked at those blue eyes, now clearer and brighter, he knew why. Because someone had to care. Someone had to be there. And it was going to be him. There were setbacks. On the 4th day, the kitten stopped eating. Just refused the bottle completely, turning his head away with weak little movements. Panic set in. The man rushed him back to the vet, his hands shaking as he drove. Turned out it was just an upset stomach, something easily fixed with medication. But in that moment, waiting for the doctor to come back with results, the man realized something. He loved this kitten. Completely, irrationally, desperately loved him. When had that happened? When had this tiny creature become so essential to his existence? The recovery continued. Every small milestone felt like a victory. The first time the kitten used the litter box correctly. The first time he groomed himself. The first time he jumped, a wobbly little leap that barely got him off the ground but filled the man with pride. These were things most people would never notice, never celebrate. But to someone who'd seen this kitten at his lowest, they were miracles. Slowly, impossibly, things started to change. The kitten stopped crying through the night. His ribs, which had been so visible at first, disappeared under healthy weight. His steps, once wobbly and uncertain, became confident and playful. He started exploring, sniffing everything, pouncing on shadows and dust particles dancing in the sunlight. He was becoming a cat. A real, healthy, happy cat. And then came the moment that changed everything. The man was sitting at his desk, trying to catch up on work he'd been neglecting. He felt something soft against his leg. Looked down. The kitten was rubbing his face against him, purring. Actually purring. It was the first time. That sound, so small and fragile and absolutely perfect, meant everything. It meant trust. It meant healing. It meant that against all odds, they were going to be okay. The man named him Lucky, because that's what they both were. Lucky that their paths had crossed on that terrible morning. Lucky that the man had stopped instead of walking away. Lucky that this tiny fighter had the strength to survive. Lucky that sometimes, in a world that can be cruel and indifferent, compassion wins. Weeks turned into months. Lucky grew. His baby blue eyes turned gold. His silver fur became thick and glossy. His personality emerged fully, playful and affectionate and absolutely fearless. He followed the man everywhere. Slept curled up on his pillow every night. Sat on his laptop keyboard during work calls. Knocked things off counters just to watch them fall. Was in every way a perfect cat. But more than that, he was a companion. The man hadn't realized how lonely his life had been until Lucky filled it with noise and chaos and unconditional love. Coming home meant something now. There was someone waiting, someone who was genuinely excited to see him, someone whose whole world revolved around him. And in return, Lucky became his whole world too. The bond between them grew deeper every day. Lucky developed this habit of sitting on the bathroom counter every morning while the man got ready for work, watching him with those golden eyes like he was the most fascinating thing in the world. He learned the sound of the man's car and would be waiting at the door every evening, meowing excitedly. He had favorite spots, favorite toys, favorite times of day. He had become a full, complex little personality. And the man changed too. He became more patient, more present. He stopped working late every night, wanting to get home to Lucky. He started noticing things he'd never paid attention to before. Birds outside the window, the way sunlight moved across the room, the small joys that came from caring for someone who depended on you completely. His life had slowed down, but paradoxically, it felt fuller than ever. The man started volunteering at the local animal shelter on weekends. He couldn't save every animal, but he could help. He fostered 2 more kittens that year, nursing them back to health and finding them perfect homes. He donated regularly. He spoke to everyone he knew about adoption instead of shopping for pets. Because he understood now. He understood that every animal deserves a chance. That every life matters. That what seems like a small act can mean absolutely everything to someone who has nothing. Lucky's story spread online. The man had shared a few photos, a short caption about finding him. But people connected with it deeply. The comments poured in. Hundreds, then thousands of people sharing their own rescue stories, their own moments of choosing compassion. A teenager wrote that the post inspired her to start a pet food drive at her school. A family adopted a senior cat who'd been at the shelter for 2 years. A man drove 3 hours to rescue a dog he saw posted online. The ripples spread further than anyone could have imagined. Because that's the thing about kindness. It's contagious. When you see someone do something good, it makes you want to do something good too. One act of compassion creates another, then another, then another. And suddenly the world feels a little less dark, a little more hopeful, a little more like a place worth believing in. Now, when the man looks at Lucky, sprawled out in a patch of sunlight without a care in the world, he sometimes can't believe this is the same terrified, broken kitten from that morning. Can't believe that so much can change in such a short time. Can't believe how close he came to walking past, to convincing himself it wasn't his responsibility, to letting someone else handle it. What if he had kept walking? What if he'd decided he was too busy, too unprepared, too overwhelmed by his own life to take on someone else's problem? Lucky wouldn't be here. This happy, healthy cat who brings so much joy wouldn't exist. And the man himself would be different too. Smaller somehow. Less connected to the world around him. Less aware of his own capacity for love. That's what we don't always realize. When we help someone, we're not just changing their life. We're changing our own. We're becoming better versions of ourselves. We're learning that we're capable of more than we thought. That we have more to give than we realized. That our actions matter in ways we can't always see or measure. Think about the choices you make every day. The moments when you could look away or step forward. The times when helping would be inconvenient but ignoring it would be easy. What do you choose? Because those choices define who you are. Not in some abstract, philosophical way, but in real, concrete terms. You are the sum of every time you chose kindness over convenience. Every time you chose compassion over comfort. Right now, somewhere, there's an animal who needs help. Maybe it's obvious. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a stray cat shivering in the rain. Maybe it's a scared dog at the shelter who's running out of time. Maybe it's a bird with a broken wing or a rabbit abandoned in a box. They're out there, and they're waiting for someone who cares enough to stop, to see them, to decide that their life matters. Could that someone be you? Not someday, not eventually, but right now. Today. Could you visit a shelter this weekend? Could you foster an animal in need? Could you donate food or supplies or money to organizations doing this work? Could you share posts about animals looking for homes? Could you speak up when you see neglect or abuse? Could you be the difference between life and death for someone who desperately needs you? The man who saved Lucky wasn't special. He wasn't a hero. He was just an ordinary person who made an extraordinary choice. He was late for work, stressed about deadlines, worried about money, dealing with his own problems. But when he heard that cry, he stopped. And that made all the difference. You have that same power, that same ability to change a life completely. You don't need special skills or unlimited resources. You just need to care, to be willing to be inconvenienced, to be open to letting someone into your life who needs you, to understand that saving one life might not change the whole world, but it changes the entire world for that one life. Lucky sleeps now in his favorite spot, peaceful and safe. He doesn't remember that cold morning or the fear or the loss. His world is warm and full and loving. And it's that way because someone chose to care. Because one person decided that this small life mattered. That this frightened kitten deserved a chance. What will you choose when your moment comes? Will you be the person who walks past, who convinces themselves it's not their problem, who lets someone else handle it? Or will you be the person who stops, who kneels down in the rain, who opens their heart and their home to someone who desperately needs both? The answer to that question will define you in ways nothing else can. Because at the end of the day, the measure of a person isn't found in their success or their wealth or their achievements. It's found in how they treat those who can't help them back, in how they respond to suffering, in whether they choose to be part of the solution or part of the indifference. Lucky got his happy ending, but his story isn't over. It continues every time someone is inspired to do better, every time an animal finds safety because someone refused to look away, every time compassion wins over convenience. And you, watching this right now, you can be part of that story. You can be the next chapter. You can be the reason another scared, lonely animal finds their way home. So don't just watch. Don't just feel moved for a moment and then forget. Because there are thousands of animals right now who are exactly where Lucky was that morning. Cold, scared, alone, hoping desperately that someone will see them. Someone will care. Someone will save them. Be that someone. Not because it's easy. Not because it's convenient. But because it's right. Because you have the power to transform a life. Because when you look back on your life, you want to be able to say that when it mattered, when someone needed you, you were there. Lucky was lucky, but it wasn't random chance or fate. It was a choice. One person's decision to stop, to help, to care. And that choice saved a life and created a love that will last forever. What choice will you make?